Hey World Vision fans, welcome to another Friday Free Thinking Live. And I feel like doing World Division's Friday Free Thinking Live is actually good for me because one, we can get more input from the community, right? Hey World Vision fans, welcome to another Friday Free Thinking. Alright, sorry about that. That was my feedback on my quote-unquote second monitor. So I think it's important to discuss topics that involves our community and discuss topics that involves perhaps potential improvements of the game and discuss things that drastically affect us in terms of as gamers. And I think today's episode of Friday Free Thinking essentially involves something that I've been wanting to talk about actually since the tower came around. But so the topic at hand is going to be, is this game getting more difficult? And I'm not sure exactly if people feel the same way, but I certainly felt the same way because of the fact that during our last challenge, right? Challenge number 3, it was very interesting, and we're going to get into an in-depth discussion of that. And then of course we're going to drag the Porcelain Tower back into the conversation because last week it was Chinese Lunar New Year's, and I want to thank everybody for coming for that stream. We had a lot of fun. There was a lot of people with a lot of good ideas in terms of what they felt like was going to be good for the community and good for the game. And we're fastly approaching the 1-year anniversary. Therefore, most likely the Job EX25. So these are all going to be, exciting times for this game. It's crazy that I'm actually playing this game almost for a year. A lot of us probably didn't think that this game would be lasting this long. Like, I personally felt like it had a lot of potential, and that I was hoping that it would last a lot longer, and maybe hopefully longer going to the forward in the future, right? So let's go ahead and begin the conversation. When I experienced the Porcelain Tower, it was a bit unbearable. Like, starting at floor 31 was a great idea. I thought that the challenge was there, but then I quickly learned that I don't think it was really a challenge. I think it was more of like they just amped the difficulty. And to me, it seems weird that they amped the difficulty so high. Like, it kind of like went from here, instead of going like a curve of, a very like steady increase, it just kind of shot up. And so of course, like any sane person would do, I quickly went and said hi to my guildies, and I was like, hey, are you guys experiencing a bit of frustration here? Because I know I am. And generally speaking, I don't really experience frustration. Like, I don't mind retreating my team. Like, I don't care about the energy as long as I can beat it. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to just defeat the tower and gain the goodies, right? The loot, if you will. And then I started to realize these floors, like, if you examine the units, okay, you examine the enemy units, you will quickly learn that not only did they jack up the resistances, they also jacked up defense, spirit, and immunity to certain status ailments. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, so this is not really a challenge. This is more like a grind fest. And generally speaking, I don't like to use the word grind fest, right? Like, grinding, people have negative connotation. And I strongly felt like the tower could not escape that label of a grind. Because think about it. If I defeat a tower, it doesn't make any sense for me to reset a tower and climb the same floors over and over. So I don't like it. I'm gonna be brutally honest. I don't like the direction that the designers are going with the design of the difficulty level. And I'm not a fan of it because of the fact that not only do they want us to forcibly use units of the opposing elements to defeat it, it still was a grind fest even when we used those opposing element units. Because when you climb higher to, say, 38, if I remember correctly, it was a 0. So against all other elements, it was 50%, 60%, something really outrageous. And then even against the opposing element was 0, essentially neutral damage. This is not a good design if you ask me, right? Hey Sean, how you doing? I started a game late, so it's really tough for me to clear the tower because it levels as I do. I think the option is to restart it would be every 10th floor. Yes, I agree with that concept. We discussed that during the Lunar Chinese New Year. We felt like we should be able to allow beginning players who are jumping in to reset the floors at a certain time. But again, I'm just not a fan of resetting altogether. I feel like making me play, okay, let me rephrase it, not making me play, but asking me to replay the floors over and over and over doesn't seem like a great way for a reward, right? If I already spent all this time defeating the floors, why ask us to do it all over again, right? But I think we'll save that topic of conversation for a different day. I think what we have in front of us is the fact that the game itself is leaning towards, I hate to use this word, folks, I hate to use this word, but I feel like we're going in the direction of just being lazy. And I'm going to support that theory with a couple of ideas here. First idea is we had a lot of bugs in this game. Now, I got to give props where props is due. Recently, we had another bug. I think they fixed it literally the following day, or if not the same day. So I think that was awesome. Good evening, Kinzen. Good morning, Kinzen. Or good afternoon, Kinzen. Welcome to the stream. So I feel like if you're going to see bugs, by the way, this is not like me being negative. It's just me being observant, right? There's a difference. And being observant and relaying that observation to the community, it doesn't suggest that I'm disliking what the company is doing. But to be fair, I really feel like they should have been on top of their game multiple times, right? The big one was we had that bug in which we could not scroll up and down on the shop. That was fixed, right? But it took a little while. And then recently, of course, I thought it was just my account, or maybe it was my phone or my connection where I could not log in directly into the game on my phone. I will get disconnected or like the screen will freeze, and then I will have to reset. And then that was very annoying bug. I really thought like, wow, what is going on? Am I losing my account, or what is going on, right? And then when this patch came up, I couldn't log into my account when I'm playing on the emulator. Now that could be just the emulator, but I realized I think that bug now it's happening on the emulators, but no longer happening on your phones. So these are issues that should be addressed right away. Now I know that the companies are not going to figure out these bugs until people maybe perhaps put tickets in, but it definitely seemed like when you drag a bug and it's a known bug and you don't fix it for say 4 weeks, that come off to me as being lazy. It's like you have to ask those designers, have you given up? Have you lost a passion? Are you lost in the direction of where you're going here, right? You have to kind of question that. You know, given the pandemic, that honestly you want to figure out, well, what is the excuse? Because you're not really putting out crazy content as you originally perhaps felt like you wanted to do. So you're doing a lot of reruns, so therefore you should have sufficient time. Okay, to be fair, maybe because of the pandemic, there's going to be less folks working. That I will allow. I think that is perfectly understandable, reasonable. But you have to be on top of your game in acknowledging these bugs and letting the community know, hey, we're aware of it and we're going to fix it, right? So, good night from Brazil. Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. If this is your first time, welcome. Zen, hey, how you doing? Good day to you. So it's kind of like I want to make sure that they're not losing passion for this game, because this game, in my honest opinion, is perhaps one of the best products they have put out as a Square Enix product or a Gumi product. So I'm hoping that is the case, that they're just kind of short-staffed. Also, it was Lunar Chinese New Year. Perhaps some folks are celebrating that as well. I'm not 100% certain. I do want to give them the benefit of the doubt because they have been absolutely on top of their game in terms of fixing bugs, fixing problems right away. And they do give compensation. Now, personally, I'm okay with them not giving me compensation. I'm okay with just them giving us a heads up saying, hey, listen, folks, we know the situation, we're on it, and we're going to get it fixed. So that brings me back to the original topic at hand. Is the game getting more difficult? I feel like the game is getting more difficult. And I'm going to give you another example besides the Porcelain Tower why the game is getting difficult. Now there's we need to figure out the wording here, right? The wording is difficulty versus challenging. Now something is challenging, it means is trying to draw the best out of you. It's trying to get the best out of you, right? It's trying to get you to strategize better, organize better, and ultimately execute better. In this game, being a strategy game and meaning that you have to move your pieces around the board, essentially it's like a chess game. If you make mistakes, you can get punished pretty hard. And I just felt like the most recent challenge number 3, it was not really challenging, but more like pointless. And I'm gonna give you reasons why I feel like it was pointless. One, you could totally skip it and not have a worry in the world that you skipped it, right? So in that sense, it can be pointless unless you really want the gifts, right? The gifts are great. And essentially they want you to earn it. And I have no qualms with that at all. What I do have an issue with was the design of challenge 3. So when you did the regular challenge, they simply gave you a turtle to fight. And there was a few summoners or clerics or just casters in general. And they will buff the turtle and now you have to fight them. Kill off the turtle, kill off the casters, and then boom, another wave of enemies will show up. You kill them all, you clear it, you're good. And then we lead to the brutal difficulty. And that seems to be the trend in the game right now. Like we're seeing brutal difficulty and then on top of the normal difficulty, or as they call it, a high difficulty, right? For example, I haven't actually cleared it, which I should probably do now today. All the equipment training quests, all of them now, are moving in that direction. You have your normal, as they like to call just nothing, I guess, here. Once you clear that, you have the brutal difficulty. Now, generally speaking, brutal difficulty is complete different enemy units, different setup. I look at these type of maps like puzzles, right? I think that's a great analogy. You look at it like it's a puzzle, and your goal as a gamer is to try to solve this puzzle. You have tons of pieces at your disposal, in this case, your units. Tons of different additions to those units would be like your Espers, your vision cards, your equipment, right? And then your goal is to try to deploy the units in your mind that you think going to be best used for this job. And then you try to solve that puzzle. So let's go back to challenge 3. Did you clear Voodoo Quest 3? Omni, welcome to the stream. Yes, I did clear challenge 3, but I did enjoy it. And I felt like it was really just boring. Like, I think that's the best way for me to describe it. It was boring, it was bland, and it wasn't really challenging. It was essentially just raising difficulty without really raising in difficulty. It was raising difficulty for the sake of raising difficulty. Okay, so again, let's get one thing clear, is that the difficulty in versus challenge is two different ways of looking at something. If something is challenging you as a gamer, is challenging you as a manager to how to micromanage your account to best clear that content. But if the difficulty is too high, it ceases to be a challenge. It essentially becomes an obstacle that perhaps you cannot really just solve the puzzle by using certain pieces. It's more like you're just trying to do it just to do it. And that the difficulty level wasn't really well designed, in my opinion. Like, here's how they did it. Just like the Porcelain Tower, what they did essentially was, in the brutal difficulty challenge, they gave you one turtle plus whatever number of casters around that turtle, each casting resistances on the turtle. So any classes you bring, any elements you bring, you're just essentially doing very little damage, right? Because the resistance is high, the physical defense is high, and the spirit is high. So if all those numbers were increased, then let me ask you as a gamer, how are you supposed to approach the scenario? Are you supposed to just bring your strongest hitters? But bear in mind, all those damage is brought down to, let's say, 10%. So instead of hitting for 5,000, you know, in accordance to how we see numbers in PvP combat, we're only seeing 300. And the turtle, say, has, I don't remember the number, but let's say the turtle has 10,000 hit points. So essentially what it means is we have to hit the turtle 33 times, right, in order to kill that turtle. So if that was really how they view as brutal, is it really brutal? No, it's not. It's more like, we're just going to increase all the numbers on defense. Here, deal with it. But there's no clear cut. Let's put it this way. There's no real clear cut way to handle that situation. It didn't really matter. Like, I tested a lot of my different comps. Okay. I threw all my different attackers at it. I tried so many combinations. And I just couldn't conclusively. Where's my title? What do you mean, where's my title? You're asking me, are you asking me, did I complete it and where's my title? I don't have any titles, by the way. I don't equip any titles. See? I just put novice. Are you questioning me that I didn't beat it? That's pretty. Here, let's find it. I don't know what the title would be. You're gonna have to help me out here. What is the title, Omni? Like, are you asking me if I defeated brutal difficulty satisfying all stars? No, I did not. Or are you asking me, did I just beat it? I just beat it. I simply just beat it. I did not actually try to get all the stars. So, no, I absolutely did not defeat it with all the stars. But I did defeat the brutal difficulty. So, again, let's go ahead and let me finish my train of thought, and then you're more welcome to interject, because I do want people's opinions on this. I thought about just making a video, but there'd be no interactions, right? There would just be people putting their comments section, like put the comments. So again, like the way I felt like with the Porcelain Tower and with the challenge was, what would be the purpose of them just doing that? Like, I really enjoyed the previous challenges. Challenge 1 and Challenge 2 were well thought out, right? Very well thought out. First challenge, let's go back in time a little bit here. First challenge we had, if I remember correctly, it was against a bunch of archers, and it was against Mediana, Salir, and I believe it was Shuzelt, right? Shuzelt was at the end on this side, and then of course you had Mediana and Salir on the other side. So the normal challenge wasn't too difficult, you just have to kill them all. But then the brutal really amped up its game, right? Those guys are hitting hard. You have to make sure you manipulate your units around so that they don't get the bulk of the damage. It really made you use your taunting skills and make sure your healing were up to par and all that stuff. It was well designed, like super well designed puzzle in my opinion. It took a lot of time for me to defeat it, trying to satisfy all the conditions. I managed to do it, but it took a long time, and I felt satisfied when I did it. I really felt satisfied that I finished it. And the way I look at it was, it made sense to me in that design. And then Challenge 2, honestly, I don't remember much about Challenge 2. Maybe you guys can refresh my memory. I don't remember what Challenge 2 was. But I did beat it on my main account. Now, on my free-to-play account, I did have more trouble. So if I couldn't beat it, I just ignored it. Beast is the multi version. Midwinter Avenger was declaring all missions in solo. So there you go. I did not do those because, one, I did not want to jump into multi. Felt it was pointless. I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to feel like grinding it out and then having to play with other players and us not accomplishing it. Then essentially I'm just sitting there wasting time. On solo, I did not actually finish it. In Challenge 3 was the first time I actually did not accomplish all the missions. I think the easiest way to go about it was to simply use a lot of evasion units, right? Because I think the only thing I did not accomplish in the mission was the fact that you were only supposed to take a certain number of hits. And that's obviously, if you use a lot of evasion, you take no hits, no damage, and then you should satisfy that. All the other ones I satisfied. Like, I just feel like if you did so well with the design of Challenge 1, and I don't remember much about Challenge 2 now at this point in time. I probably should go back and look that up if you guys remember. And then, of course, like I said, is bringing me to the point of challenge 3. Is challenge 3 just a different, is it done by different designers? Is it just simply just like kind of like, hey, let's just lay this out and see what the players do, right? If they're emphasizing evasion, that's one thing. Like, I completely understand leaning towards that direction. But if it was just done in a very non-logical way, or like not a very interesting way, then you're essentially asking the player base just to grind. Like, you're just grinding it out, right? The perfect example would be the Porcelain Tower, because I feel like the way they're buffing the enemy units is just simply increasing the numbers across the board. To me, that's not really interesting. Like, you're not like adding anything to, in terms of moving our units around. You're not really adding anything in terms of critical thinking, right? You're not asking us to do anything beyond what simply just throw your best units in there and hit them 33 times, kill the turtle, and call it a night. I'm allergic to challenge quest. You could have Lucy Bell into Sharpshoot assisted by Quicken to get rid of the ketone quickly for that one. Okay, I remember challenge 2 now. Challenge 2 was ketone with the drain life, the ninjas running around. Yes, I remember that. So I did defeat that, no problem, actually, on my main account, on my Spenders account, no problem. Because I had Little Leela, and I felt like there was just a few positioning. Like, I had to make sure I positioned the units, the right units on the right side on challenge 2. And then on the left side, I had Little Leela, and then I had a tank. And then I make sure I just kind of draw the aggro with the tank. I think what I did was I ping pong aggroed. I had 2 tanks on the left side to draw the attention of the ketone and some of the ninjas. So it took the pressure off the right side, which was the weak side, right? The weakest link side. Essentially, I believe I used 3 attackers on the right side, because I did end up using a companion. So I used a companion, and then I was able to hold the fort down on the right side, and then ping pong the aggro effect on the left side, with Little Leela hitting ketone as much as possible, because right, she was earth. There was a lot of earth units during that challenge 2. Thank you, by the way. That was great. So challenge 2. So here's the thing. I'm not complaining. Don't get me wrong. I don't want this to be about a rant. This is not a rant. This is more like an observation. And if I'm just one person on this note, then ignore everything I'm saying. I just feel like challenge 1 was well designed. Challenge 2 was well designed. And I think Omni pointed out he or she felt that challenge 2 was more challenging than challenge 3. I don't disagree. I think challenge 2 was actually challenging because you were forced to really critical think about your deployment. You were forced to really make sure that you had the right combination of elements, items, vision cards, and all that stuff. But in challenge 3, none of that really took into consideration. It didn't really matter because you could just throw a bunch of units, hit the turtle 33 times, and you're good. Like, prove me wrong on that. Like, what is there that made you guys think outside of the box for challenge 3? And by the way, Omni, I don't really care about titles, but if for your sake, if you feel like that's proof that you defeated, then that's one thing. But no, I'm being honest. I didn't beat all the missions. I simply defeated it, got certain rewards that I kind of wanted it without having to spend more time on it. And that's been my mentality this entire time. I'll never forget about those stupid gunners. Yes, there it is. The gunners and the ninjas. I remember challenge 2 very vividly now that you guys are refreshing my memory. It was rough. I'm not gonna lie. I couldn't defeat all of it using my free-to-play account. And for me, I was okay with it at that time, right? I didn't mind it. It didn't bother me. But it always bothered me that if I'm spending money on this game and I can't do it properly, then it bothers me, right? It does bother me. But it definitely seemed like the feedback that I got from my guild was that a lot of them felt like the Porcelain Tower was more geared towards making sure you have the units of the right elements for certain stages, or perhaps quote unquote the right units for the job. And I think that ultimately that's kind of like perhaps is leaving a little bad taste in my mouth, right? As an owner of almost every unit in this game, I realized unless I spent another $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, I will have every single unit properly built with everything. I will have everything. But then I question myself, what will be the purpose of that? What exactly am I trying to prove if I went that way, right? It wouldn't make any sense. So for me, that's not the way I want to approach this game. And I don't fault anyone for approaching the game they want to approach it. So to me, that part doesn't really make any difference. What ultimately makes a difference is if you're putting out a product as a company, right, and your challenges are kind of designed to measure where people are in terms of progression, then it has to be cleverly made. It has to be using the word challenging and not simply just a grind fest, which essentially what the Porcelain Tower has become at this point, and essentially what Challenge 3 is leaning towards. If Challenge 1 and Challenge 2 is any indication of how well ingenious the designers are, I applaud them. I think they did an excellent job. But Challenge 3, if it's a new team designing it, maybe they can get away with it. If it feels like they have running out of ideas back there, I hope that's not where we're going, right? I mean, this is kind of like why I'm bringing this up. Elemental meta is coming. I didn't like the turtle one because it pigeonholed you into using select damage types to win versus strats. And that's kind of like, I guess, Ryan, that's like the best way to put it. I really felt like the Porcelain Tower and Challenge 3 were essentially pigeonholing us into making the decision to build certain units for the certain job. Like, I had to YOLO my way through, like Ben just said. I YOLO my through Porcelain Tower. I YOLO'd it. And I didn't even give too much thought on the Brutal Challenge 3. Because I just felt like it wasn't worth my time. Honestly, it just wasn't worth my time. I could be earning like thousands of dollars in investments or whatever it is, or working or hanging out with my fiance or my dogs. I could be out there jogging or something, lose some of this belly fat.